Well, it's primary day in Kentucky, and Congressman Thomas Massie, who has made a name for himself by trying to be the most anti-Israel member of Congress, especially in the Republican Party. That's what he's gunning for. So he is running for re-election, and we're really all hoping that he loses. So in this video, I want to talk about this Thomas Massie primary and some of the fallout that could be from it, because I think this has everything to do with where America is going and where the America First movement is going, where the Republican Party is going. Thomas Massie, well, let's just get to to some of the articles I have here for you, and you can see all about it. So here's a piece from the Jewish Insider today. Massie's closing message leans into conspiratorial attacks on Israel and Jewish groups. And on Saturday, at a rally on Saturday, he joked that his opponent's phone number had a Tel Aviv area code. After months of beating around the bush, one reporter finally writes the true story of my race. And when asked, the lobbyists brag about it. A coalition of Israel's lobbyists and donors is spending tens of millions of dollars. Yeah, they are. They want to get rid of him because he's a cancer. He recently hosted, this article mentions that he recently hosted an event at his home. And at the event, some of the attendees were well-known anti-Semites like Ryan Matta, a Holocaust denier, an open Holocaust denier, who was pictured with Massie at a separate event wearing an American Reich sweatshirt, and David Riley, who's also a self-described anti-Semite who has a history of racist comments. Various figures with records of anti-Semitism, including Tucker Carlson, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Ron Paul, Carrie Brigitte Bowler, who was booted from the White House Religious Liberty Commission over her anti-Semitic comments, Alex Jones, Nick Fuentes, Ian Carroll. They've all declared their support for Massie, and they're all framing this as a battle between him and Israel and its supporters. And that's what matters most, because the enemy, the anti-Israel forces on the right, are framing this primary as a battle between Israel and anti-Israel, pro-Israel and anti-Israel within the Republican Party. This primary becomes almost like a kind of mini referendum on that point. In the final days of the campaign last week, Massie introduced the AIPAC Act, demanding that the pro-Israel group and other interest groups supporting other countries register as foreign agents, a longtime talking point by the congressman that leads into anti-Semitic dual loyalty tropes. Now, let's just talk about the absurdity of this act, the AIPAC Act, because when there are foreign interest groups with foreign money, that's one thing. But when there is a lobby group that is American citizens who care about a certain issue, and it's all Americans, every cent of AIPAC's money, every cent of it comes from Americans. And not a lot of them are Jews. A lot of them are evangelical Christians. You must know that there are tens of millions of evangelical Christians who support Israel unequivocally. And they care about this issue. They prioritize it. So what is Thomas Massie's bill about? I don't like that some American citizens prioritize this issue. I don't like that issue. Americans can prioritize whatever issues they want. And that's what AIPAC actually is. Okay, but enough about AIPAC. That's not what I wanted to do this video on. Before I go on, though, it's very relevant to the subject of this video. I want to bring to your attention a very important event that we are hosting tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Israel 365 Action is hosting an important webinar. Will America First stand with Israel? Will the Thomas Massies of the world win? Thomas Massie's, Ian Carroll, Nick Fuentes, are they going to win over the Republican Party? Or will America First be pro-Israel? And that's what we're going to be having a conversation about with a fantastic panel, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, tomorrow, 8 p.m. in Israel. And if you can't make it, you should still register, because when you register for this event, even if you don't attend, you will get emailed the full video of the entire webinar so you can watch it on your own time. So make sure to register for this, 1 p.m. Wednesday, May 20th. Will America First stand with Israel? With Josh Hammer, senior editor-at-large at Newsweek, host of the Josh Hammer Show, Dr. David Wormser of the Center for Security Policy, one of the top Middle East experts in the world, and Pastor Rob McCoy, who is the founder of Turning Point USA Faith and was Charlie Kirk's pastor. He traveled with Charlie a lot. He was really Charlie's mentor on faith issues, very close to Charlie, and very much has his finger on the pulse of the America First movement. You can sign up by going to Israel365/America First. I think that link is in the description of this video. And that's one way to sign up. Again, Israel365.com /America First, or you can scan this QR code, and that could register you for this important webinar. So you can pause the video right now, scan that QR code, and register for the webinar tomorrow. Okay, back to Thomas Massie. So here is President Trump on Thomas Massie.
I'll be doing hopefully a very powerful tele-rally tonight for a friend of mine, Ed Galrain, who is a fantastic man, a fantastic hero, war hero, farmer from Kentucky. He's running against the worst congressman, in my opinion, worst Republican congressman in the history of our country. The guy's a total disaster, and you know who it is. Thomas Massie. He's the worst. So we have to get out and vote. We have to make sure that Ed gets there. I mean, Ed left the Republican Party because he couldn't stand Massie, couldn't stand watching him, couldn't stand how disloyal he was to your president. He left the Republican Party, but he came back, and he came back strong. He couldn't stand Massie, and neither can I. A bad guy. So get out and vote. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Okay, that's Trump. And here is Secretary of War Pete Hegseth.
Because after you've led men in life and death situations, the games that are played inside the Beltway start looking pretty small. Now contrast that with what we've gotten from Tom Massie. At some point, being against everything becomes an excuse for accomplishing nothing. At some point, constant obstruction is not leadership, it's just commentary. It's obstruction. President Trump does not need more people in Washington who are trying to make a point, especially from his own party. He needs people willing to help him win, to vote with him when it matters the most. And too often, Thomas Massie has acted like his job is to stand apart from the movement that President Trump leads instead of strengthening it. When President Trump needs backup, Massie wants to debate process. When the movement needs unity, especially at the biggest moments, Massie's willing to vote with Democrats. When conservatives are fighting the most radical left in American history, too often Massie's instinct is to throw elbows at fellow Republicans instead of the people who are destroying our country or want to destroy our country. And there's one man standing in their way, and it's President Trump. And President Trump needs reinforcements. And that's what warfighters do. They stand behind leaders and have their back. Warfighters understand mission, they understand teamwork, they understand loyalty. And they understand that in the middle of a fight, you don't weaken your own side, you advance to the objective. And that's what Ed Galrain understands.
But, you know, it's not only about Israel. There was the DHS funding bill, which would have provided a lot of funding for border security, a very important border, and the whole DHS bill would have really allowed the deportations and the border security, the whole anti-illegal immigration policies of President Trump to move forward. And the only Republican to vote against it was Tom Massie. So here's Stephen Miller on that.
Stephen Miller here to talk with you about a very important subject, which is how Tom Massie betrayed America, betrayed you, and betrayed your children. The single most important issue affecting the future of our country is ending the mass third world invasion of America and reversing that invasion. And on the most important issue, on the most important vote, on the most important bill, on the most important day, Tom Massie sided with every House Democrat, every Senate Democrat, Hakeem Jeffries, Nancy Pelosi, and Chuck Schumer against President Trump, against the American people, and against you and your family. When the time came to vote for President Trump's signature border security and immigration enforcement bill, the bill to provide record funding for ICE and Border Patrol and mass deportation, Tom Massie voted no. Tom Massie voted to kill the bill. Tom Massie sided with the House and Senate Democrats over the sovereignty of this republic. I personally called Tom Massie and I said, Tom, this is the most important vote of your life and career. This is the vote to reverse the invasion of America. We need your vote. We need your support. And Tom Massie said we could all pound sand. He voted against Trump. He voted against the American people. He voted against you. He voted to kill the most important bill of his career. That is the real Tom Massie. He sided with the illegals. He sided with the left-wing NGOs. He sided with the refugee industrial complex. And he sided with the radical Democrats and crazy communists instead of siding with you, your family, your children, and your loved ones. That's the truth. That's what you need to hear. That is what you need to know. When America needed him, when you needed him, when President Trump needed him, Tom Massie sided with the radical left and the foreign predators and criminal aliens over the American people.
Wow, that's pretty powerful. So that was Stephen Miller. And now let's go to Dan Bongino. Here's what he had to say on the matter.
And folks, it's a difficult conversation for me because I really believed in this guy. I did. I supported him for a while, even when, him and President Trump butted heads. Been good on some issues. But I'm going to tell you something. I have never been as disappointed in a human being in politics as I am in Tom Massie. I largely stayed out of that race, didn't make too many comments on it. Because the people of Kentucky will choose who they want. If they want Tom Massie, I'm not a resident of that district. I live in Florida. You pick who you want. Got his opponent coming on in just a little bit, about an hour. We'll ask some questions about some issues that matter to you, constitutional carry, Iran, NATO. However, when I got up there in that position, I could not believe what a fraud this guy was. I mean, like an epic level fraud. Whatever you think of this guy, I'm telling you, I have no dog in the fight. I supported him. He is an absolute fraud. Fraud. He decided to do some money bomb thing and just completely BSing people about my record there. Just lying to your face. I tried multiple times to get this guy to come over to give him a briefing on a case he kept bloviating about on Twitter, causing a serious problem, by the way. And I thought he believed in due process. He's supposedly a libertarian, wants to try a case on X. And he didn't do it. I was there from March until January of this year. You know how many times he came over to visit and ask about these cases despite multiple offers, cases he kept bloviating about? Well, we could have actually told him. 0. And there's nothing he's going to tell you. All of his BS responses, his fake community notes, it's all a distraction from the fact that he doesn't want to admit that he was offered a detailed briefing within certain parameters on these matters he's bloviating about on X in order to attack President Trump and others and due process. Could have cleared it up for him right away, and he just didn't want to do it because he preferred to be stupid. Nothing will change that. He'll try to distract you with his razzle-dazzle, his bot army, like we haven't been through this before. You think you're the first time we've entered into a primary and supported a candidate and had other people come in with the bots and the bullshit? What do you think? We're like newbies at this? I promise I'll far outlast you. I promise. I've heard it all before. The guy is a fraud. Anyone telling you otherwise, including him, is lying. He did not want to know. He preferred to be dumb so he could plead ignorance on X and attack.
There's Dan Bongino. And then finally, Tom Massie's ex accuses him of hush money offer. And this is a breaking story. A woman named Cynthia West, identifying herself as Massie's former girlfriend, is claiming that Massie pressured her into deviant sexual behavior and bribed her with a $5,000 hush money bribe to stay quiet. He offered her cash. As she said in this interview here, he offered her cash. He then had her fired from her congressional staffer job when she refused. West says Massie first reached out via direct message on X in August 2024, less than 2 months after his wife of 31 years died, and the alleged incidents followed. A complaint was reportedly filed in the fall of 2025, coinciding with Massie's remarriage to a staffer 20 years younger. The man who loudly demanded Epstein transparency now faces very serious personal allegations of his own. The story is developing rapidly. So, why does all this matter? Why does all this matter? Well, listen. Trump wants Gallrein to win. Of course, we all do. But if Massie wins, Trump will be weakened publicly as well. Because everyone in the nation is watching this race because of all the issues I've mentioned. The isolationist, libertarian, anti-Israel wing of the Republican Party will be massively, massively boosted by a Massie win. Two of Trump's opponents in the Republican Party are campaigning for Thomas Massie. One of them, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's not in Congress anymore, but also Lauren Boebert. Tucker Carlson is campaigning for Massie. Joe Kent is campaigning for Massie. If they win, then this advances their revolt. And if Massie loses, then it's a huge win. It's a huge message that this type of, whatever you want to call it, this anti-Semitic, isolationist right-wing cancer that we're seeing will be put down. It will be put down. And listen, I agreed. I used to like Thomas Massie, like Dan Bongino. I agree with a lot of his America First approaches. But in the America First movement, there is this trend that is blurring the lines between legitimate political discourse and out-and-out toxic anti-Semitism. And Massie he's the darling of that toxic crowd. So here's praying for Massie to lose his primary today. Thanks for watching. God bless.